Hi, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be history on Guatemala. The culture name, from what I'm looking at, says Guatemalan. The name Guatemala means land of forest, was derived from one of the Mayan dialects spoken by the indigenous people at the time of the Spanish conquest in 1523. It is used today by outsiders as well as by most citizens, although for many purposes the descendants of the original inhabitants still prefer to identify themselves by the names of their specific language dialects, which reflect political divisions from the 16th century. Now, I'm not going to read all that out because that looks a little boring. The national culture was also influenced by the arrival of the Europeans, mostly Germans, in the second half of the 19th century, as well as by the more recent movement of thousands of Guatemalans to and from the United States. There has been increased immigration from China, Japan, Korea, and the Middle East, although those groups who, while increasingly visible, have not contributed to the national culture, nor have many of them adopted it as their own. Within Central America, the citizens of each country are affectionately known by a nickname of which they are proud, but which is sometimes used despairingly by others, much like the term Yankee. The term Chapin, the origin of the word is unknown, denotes anyone from Guatemala. When traveling outside of Guatemala, all of its citizens define themselves as Guatemalans and or Chapins. While at home, however, there is little sense that they share a common culture. The most important split is between Latinos and Indians. Location and geography. Guatemala covers an area of 42,042 square miles, and is bound on the west and north by Mexico, on the east by Belize, the Caribbean Sea, Honduras, and El Salvador, and on the south by the Pacific Ocean. The three principal regions are the northern lowland plains of the Petén and the adjunct Atlantic littoral. I'm butchering names all over again. The volcanic highlands of the Sierra Madre, cutting across the country from the northwest to southeast, and the Pacific lowlands, a coastal plain stretching along the entire southern boundary. The country has a total of 205 miles of coastline between the Matagua River and the Honduran border. On the southeast, there is a dry, flat corridor that receives less than 40 inches of rain per year. Although the country lies within the tropics, its climate varies considerably depending on altitude and rainfall patterns. The northern lowlands and the Atlantic coastal area are very warm and experience rain throughout much of the year. The Pacific lowlands are drier, and because they are at or near sea level, remain warm. The highlands are temperate. The coolest weather there, locally called winter, occurs during the rainy season from May or June to November, which daily temperatures ranging from 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit in the higher altitudes, and from 60 to 70 degrees in Guatemala City, which is about a mile above sea level. Summer denotes the period between February and May, when the temperature during the day in Guatemala City often reaches into the 80s. So their version of winter is somewhat the same, I think, maybe? I don't know. I don't really know, because I know that when I went to high school, waiting out for the bus, it got, especially in the mornings, it would get down to like below zero. So I don't know how well I don't know if that counts for this one. Summer The Spanish conquerors preferred the highlands despite a difficult journey from the Atlantic coast, and that is where they placed their primary settlements. The present capital, Guatemala City, was founded in 1776 after a flood and an earthquake had destroyed two earlier sites. Although the Maya had earlier inhabited the lowlands of the Patan, the lower Motagua River, by the time the first Spaniards arrived, they lived primarily in the Pacific lowlands and western highlands. The highlands are still largely populated by their descendants. The eastern Motagua corridor was settled by Spaniards and is still inhabited primarily by Latinos. Large plantations of coffee, sugarcane, bananas, and cardamom, all grown primarily for export, cover much of the Pacific lowlands. These are owned by large, usually non-resident landholders and are worked by local Latinos and Indians who journey to the coast from the highland villages for the harvest. Okay, demography. The 1994 census showed that a total, I'm not even going to bother to try to read that number out. By 1999, reached 12 million, with more than 50% living in urban areas. The 40-year period of social unrest, violence, and civil war, 1956 to 1996, resulted in massive immigration to Mexico and the United States, and has been estimated to have resulted in 1 million dead, disappeared, and migrated. Some of the displaced have returned from the United Nations refugee camps in Mexico, as have many undocumented immigrants to the U.S. So there you go with that one. Let's see. Linguistic affiliation. Spanish is the official language, but since the end of the Civil War in December 1996, 22 indigenous languages, mostly dialects of the Mayan linguistic family, have been recognized. The most widely spoken are Quiche, Mam, and Quechua, and that's all I can pronounce. A bilingual program for beginning primary students has been in place since the late 1980s, and there are plans to make it available in all Indian communities. Many Indians, especially women, and those in the most remote areas of the Western Highlands speak no Spanish, yet many Indian families are abandoning their own language to ensure that their children become fluent in Spanish, which is recognized as a necessity for living in the modern world and even for travel outside one's village. Since the various indigenous people languages are not all mutually intelligible, Spanish is increasingly important as the language, I guess. Oh, man. We're just moving on. All right, emergence of the nation. Guatemala, along with other Central American Spanish colonies, declared its independence on 15th of September, 1821. Until 1839, it belonged first to Mexico, and then to a federation known as the United Provinces of Central America. It was not until 1945 that a constitution guaranteeing civil and political rights for all people, including women and Indians, was adopted. However, Indians continued to be exploited and disparaged until recently, when international opinion forced Ladino elitists to modify their attitudes and behavior. This shift was furthered by the selection of Rigoberta Menchú, a young Mayan woman, for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1992. Ethnic relations. Some Latinos, see the Indian revitalization movement as a threat to their hegemony and fear that they will eventually suffer violence at Indian hands. There is little concrete evidence to support those fears, because the national culture is composed of a blend of European and indigenous traits, and is largely shared by Maya, Latinos, and other newer immigrants. It is likely that the future will bring greater consolidation, and that social class rather than ethnic background will determine social interactions. Urbanism, architecture, and the use of space. Spanish imposed a pattern on communities of all sizes, which included a central plaza, generally with a public water fountain known as a pila, around which were situated a Catholic church, government offices, and the homes of high-ranking persons. Colonial homes included a central patio with living, dining, and sleeping rooms lined up off the surrounding corridors, a service patio with a pila, and a kitchen with an open fireplace under a large chimney was located behind the general living area. Entrances were directly off the street, and gardens were limited to the interior patios. Those town and house plans persist, except that homes of the elite now tend to be placed on the periphery of the town or city and have modified internal space arrangements, including second stories. An open internal patio is still popular, but gardens now surround the house, with the whole being enclosed behind high walls. The older, centrally located colonial houses are now occupied by offices or have been turned into rooming houses or hotels. Indian homes retain these characteristics, but many of the smaller hamlets exhibit little patterning. The house is mostly made of sun-dried bricks, adobe, and roofed with corrugated aluminum or ceramic tiles, may stretch out along a path or be located on small parcels of arable land. The poorest houses often have only one large room containing a hearth, perhaps a bed, table and chairs or stools, a large ceramic water jug and other ceramic storage jars, a wooden chest for clothes and valuables, and sometimes a cabinet for dishes and utensils. Other implements may be tied or perched on open rafters and baskets. The oldest resident couple occupies the bed, while with children and younger adults sleeping on reed mats on the floor. The mats are rolled up when not in use. Running water in the home or yard is a luxury that only some villages enjoy. Electricity is widely available except in the most remote areas. Its primary use is for light, followed by refrigeration and television. I'm not even going to bother to read all that because that's a lot. Okay, food and economy. Economy, I mean. I don't know why I'm saying economy. Ignore me. Food and daily life. Corn made into tortillas or tamales, black beans, rice, and wheat in the form of bread or pasta are staples eaten by nearly all Guatemalans. Depending on their degree of affluence, people also consume chicken, pork, and beef, and those living near bodies of water also eat fish and shellfish. With improvements in refrigeration and transport, seafood is becoming increasingly popular in Guatemala City. The country has long been known for vegetables and fruits, including avocados, radishes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, carrots, beets, onions, and tomatoes. Lettuce, snow peas, green beans, broccoli, cauliflower, and artichokes and turnips are grown for export and are also available in local markets. They are eaten more by Latinos than by Indians. Fruits include pineapples, papayas, mangoes, a variety of melons, citrus fruits, peaches, pears, plums, guavas, and many others of both native and foreign origin. Fruit is eaten as dessert or as a snack in between meals. 3 meals per day are the general rule. with the largest eaten at noon. Until recently, most stores and businesses in the urban areas closed for 2 to 3 hours to allow employees time to eat at home and rest before returning to work. Transportation problems due to increased traffic, both on buses and in private vehicles, are bringing rapid change to this custom. In rural areas, women take the noon meal to the men in the fields, often accompanied by their children, so that the family can eat as a group. Tortillas are eaten by everyone, but are especially important for the Indians, who may consume up to a dozen at a time, especially with chili, sometimes with beans, and or stews made with or flavored with meat or dried shrimp. Breakfast for the well-to-do may be large, including fruit, cereal, eggs, bread, and coffee. The poor may drink only atoll, a thin gruel made with any one of the several thickeners: oatmeal, cornstarch, cornmeal, or even ground fresh corn. Others may only have coffee with sweetbread. All drinks are heavily sweetened with refined or brown sugar. The evening meal is always lighter than that at noon. Although there are no food taboos, many people believe that specific foods are classified as hot or cold by nature, and there are maybe temporary prohibitions on eating them, depending upon age, the condition of one's body, the time of day, and other factors. Ceremonial occasions for food. The ceremonial year is largely determined by the Roman Catholic Church, even for those who do not profess that faith. Thus, the Christmas period, including Advent and the Day of the Kings on 6th of January and Easter week, are major holidays for everyone. Patron saints of each village, town, or city are honored on their respective days. Let's see. Special foods are used. Tamales are the most important ceremonial food. They are eaten on all special occasions, including private parties and celebrations, and on weekends, which are special because Sunday is recognized as being a holy day as well as a holiday. A special vegetable and meat called fiambre is eaten on the 1st of November, the Day of the Dead, which families congregate in the cemeteries to honor, placate, and share food with the deceased relatives. Codfish, cooked in various forms, is eaten on Easter, and Christmas is again a time for gourmet tamales and ponche, a rum-based drink containing spices and fruits, beer and rum, including a fairly raw variety known as I'm not even going to bother to try and say that, are the most popular alcoholic drinks, although urban elites prefer Scotch whiskey. Alright. Moving on. Social classes and castes, or castes. Social class based on wealth, education, and family prestige operates as a sorting mechanism among both Indians and Latinos. Race is also clearly a component, but may be less important than culture and lifestyle, except in the case of the Black Garifuna, who are shunned by all other groups. Individual people of Indian background may be accepted in Latino society if they are well educated and have the resources to live in a Western style. However, Indians as a group are poorer and less educated than are non-Indians. In 1980s, literacy among Indians was 79%, compared with 40% among Latinos. In 1989, 60% of Indians had no formal education, compared with 26% of Latinos. Indians with 13 or more years of education earned about 1/3 less than did Latinos with a comparable level of education. The symbols of social stratification. Dress varies significantly by class and caste. Professional and white-collar male workers in the cities usually wear suits, dress shirts, and neckties, and women in comparable pursuits dress fashionably, including stockings and high-heeled shoes. Non-employed upper-class women dress more casually, often in blue jeans and t-shirts or blouses. They frequent beauty salons since personal appearance is considered an important indicator of class. We knew this. We kind of have the same thing here. Poor Latinos, whether urban or rural, buy secondhand clothing from the United States that is sold at low prices in the streets and marketplaces. T-shirts and sweatshirts with English slogans are popular, I guess. Many Mayan women, regardless of wealth, education, or residence, continue to wear their distinctive clothing. A wraparound or a gathered nearly ankle-length skirt woven with tie-dyed threads that produce interesting designs, topped with a cotton or rayon blouse embroidered with flower motifs around the neck, or a more traditional one, which is called a huipil, I'm butchering that, is hand-woven on a backstrap loom and consists of 2 panels sewn together on the sides, leaving openings for the arms and the head. It usually is embroidered with traditional designs. Shoes or sandals are almost universal, especially in towns and cities. Earrings, necklaces, and rings are their only jewelry. Indian men are more likely to dress in a Western style. Today's fashions dictate cowboy hats, boots, and shirts for them or for lower class rural Latinos. In the more remote highland areas, many men continue to wear the clothing of their ancestors. The revitalization movement has reinforced the use of traditional clothing as a means of asserting one's identity. Political life. Government. As of 1993, the President and Vice President and 16 members of the 80-member Congress are elected by the nation as a whole for non-renewable 4-year terms, while remaining 64 members of the legislature are popularly elected by the continuance of their locals. Despite universal suffrage, only a small percentage of citizens vote. There are 22 departments under governors appointed by the president. Municipals are autonomous and with locally elected officials and are funded by the central government budget. In areas with a large Mayan population, there have been 2 sets of local government leaders, one Latino and one Mayan, with the former taking precedence. In 1996, however, many official or Latino offices were won by Maya. Leadership and political officials. Political parties range from the extreme right to the left and represent varying interests, thus their number, size, and electoral success change over time. It is generally believed that most elected officials use their short periods in office to aggrandize their prestige and line their pockets. That's like that here sometimes too. Most take office amid cheering but leave under a cloud, and many are forced to leave the country or choose to do so. While in office, they are able to bend the law and do favors for their constituents or for foreigners who wish to invest or do business in the country. All right. Social problems and control. Since the beginning of the peace accords in December 1996, there has been continued social unrest and a general breakdown in the system of justice. Poverty, land pressure, unemployment, and a pervasive climate of enmity towards all others have left even rural communities in a state of disorganization. In many Maya communities, their traditional social organization having been disrupted or destroyed by the years of violence, the people now take the law into their own hands. Tired of petty crime, kidnappings, and rapes and murders, and with no adequate governmental relief, they frequently lynch suspected criminals. In the cities, accused criminals frequently are set free for lack of evidence. Since the police and judges are poorly trained, underpaid, and often corrupt, many crimes are thought to have been committed by the army or by underground vigilante groups unhappy with the peace accords and efforts to end the impunity granted to those who committed atrocities against dissidents. Yeah, so that sounds fun, doesn't it? Remind me never to go there. Division of labor by gender. Among both Maya and Latinos, women are associated primarily with the domestic world, and men work agriculture, business, and manufacturing. However, well-educated professional women are accepted and often highly respected. Many are owners and managers of businesses. More of these women are Latinas than Mayas. Statistically, women are less educated and lower paid than their male counterparts. Their numbers exceed those of males in nursing, secretarial, and clerical jobs. The teaching force at all levels has attracted women as well as men, but men predominate. In rural areas, Maya women and men may engage in art and in agriculture, but crops they grow are different. Men tend to grow basic grains such as corn, beans, as well as export crops such as green beans and snow peas. Women grow vegetables and fruits for local consumption and sale, as well as herbs and spices. Handicrafts also tend to be assigned according to gender. Pottery is most often made by Indian women and Ladino men. Similarly, Indian women are the only ones who weave on backstrap or stick looms, while both Indian and Ladino men weave on foot looms. Indian men knit woolen shoulder bags for their own use and for sale. Both men of both I can't fucking speak. Ethnicities do woodwork and carpentry, bricklaying, and upholstering. Indian men carve images of saints, masks, slingshots, and decorative items for their own use or for sale. Men and boys fish, while women and girls, as well as small boys, gather wild foods and firewood. Women and children also tend to sheep and goats. Alright, that is going to be it for today's video. There's a lot here, and I don't want to read it all out because I don't want to bore you. It's already 27 minutes in. So, with that said, I will end this video, and hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you'd like to hear about a different country, then please by all means put it down in the comments below, and I will get to it. With that said, I will see you guys next time, and blessed be.